I had a very serious accident up here at the off-grid cabin. If you have an off-grid property, if you have a place in the woods, if it's remote, even if it's not so remote but it's not easily accessible, you need to have an emergency plan. You need to have a good first aid kit, emergency kit. You need a contact list. I'm going to tell you about my story, and this could happen to you. If you spend enough time in the woods alone, be prepared. If you're wondering how much snow we got, at least that much. Holy crap. I'm going to tell you my story about how beekeeping can be dangerous in ways that you may not have been expecting. We're going to talk a little bit about safety, about kitchen safety. If you're using anything with fire inside, be it the wood stove, a butane stove, and what you need to stay safe there. Do you need to be prepared for chimney fires? Preparation to make sure they don't happen. So one of the things you got to make sure is you have to have fire extinguishers. We're at our off-grid property, and that means that in the kitchen we're probably cooking with gas or propane, something that's flammable. Check them, make sure they're pressurized, they haven't expired. Always have a working smoke alarm, and always have a working carbon monoxide detector. You've got loved ones, take care of them. Boop, doop, boop, boop. And probably the most common thing you'll need to deal with are just little simple accidents, whether they're burns. Maybe you trip and fall and you heaven forbid, you break a bone, but you get scraped up, banged up. You need to be prepared. So I've got my emergency kit laid out to show you what I've got here. I actually had an issue a few weeks back where I did burn myself, and I went in looking to see what I had and realized that my kit needed to be replenished. So we'll take a look at all of this and see what I use to be prepared and what really you should be thinking about. Before we get into the traditional first aid stuff, I'm going to point your attention over here to the beekeepers area. I always keep at least a couple of EpiPens up here. I'm not allergic to bee stings, but beekeepers can develop allergies after beekeeping for a number of years. And of course, if I have visitors up here, a lot of people don't even know that they're allergic to bee stings until it happens. So that's important for me. The other thing I have here is a bottle of my beautiful, natural, raw honey. I've told people this for years, that, of course it's good for boosting immune systems. It's excellent for sore throats. For coughing, this is just so much better than a cough drop. Just to take a teaspoon of honey and it'll just do the trick for you. The other thing, and I've known this for years, but I've never had to use it. Raw honey is just perfect for burns. In a pinch, if you don't have adhesive, if you don't have bandages or wraps, you can also put raw honey on top of open wounds or cuts, and it will seal it up. Honey is antibacterial. There's less than, I believe it's 17% moisture, and wounds need moisture to breed and to basically get all nasty and stuff. So honey is great. So here's my first world experience. Just before Christmas, I was up here for about a week, and I got a really serious burn on the bloody wood stove. Anybody who owns a wood stove, you've all probably got a little wood stove tattoo, as I like to call them. I just lathered it with honey, and I had the tiniest little scab. And I know that if I hadn't used honey, that would have been weeks of recovering from that. I'm telling you, first world experience. Honey, keep some up at the cabin with you. I always have both alcohol and hydrogen peroxide up here. They're both good in the right circumstance. This is just more for, you'd think I have stomach issues up here. Sometimes I do. So I always keep just some Tums, some Pepsid up here, some probiotics, really good for you. And then of course some aspirin, ibuprofen for when you need that. if you have a story you want to share, your own experience, something where an emergency plan did kick in and worked, or didn't work and you were underprepared, let me know. Let's keep the comments going and the discussion going. Let's see what I did have in my old boxes here. When you have old kits, and this is why it's good to go through them every once in a while, is that after a few years, the bandages, you know, they just turn to crap, and the adhesives, you know, disintegrate, and they're not very useful any longer. This box here is mostly tape and adhesives. So for cuts or for wrapping bandages at all, you want to have some good medical tape. Tick tweezers. I have another place that I keep them, but we have ticks are a big issue out here. So very important, always have tick tweezers if you're in tick territory. And again, this is a collection of bandages, wraps, tension wraps, gauze, anything you need for any kind of cuts. And then I've got some antibacterial soap here and also some hydrogen peroxide. And as mentioned, I picked this up, I think this was about $30 Canadian. But this has all the basics that you need. So it's going to have fresh bandages, fresh wraps, fresh gauze. All of the essentials are in a first aid kit like this. So always good to have, and just check on them once in a while. It's not good enough to put this in the back and dig it out 10 years later. Now you can see a couple of my colonies out there, almost buried to the roof with snow. So the bees are out flying today. Bees won't pee or poop inside their hive. So they hold it till a nice day like today, and then they'll come out and do a short cleansing flight. Sometimes they won't even fly, they'll just come out to the edge of the hive and do their business. Okay, I think I'm gonna sit down to tell you the story of my accident up here. I had a very serious accident in the bee yard 3.5 years ago that could have been life-threatening. It was early spring and I was setting up a new colony. I was actually just setting up the equipment for it, so I wasn't even working right with the bees. And I had an annoying bee around me, honeybee, and it was very aggressive. And I don't even like telling this story because any beekeeper knows that you never run from bees. You're not going to outrun them. Just calmly walk away. If you have to go inside, go inside. In this case, it was one bee, and I sort of panicked because it was very aggressive and it was driving itself into my face. So I didn't even really run. I was on top of a ridge. I took about 2 or 3 steps, starting to sort of take a jog. My foot caught something, a branch or rock, and I went flying ass over. Okay, I'm going to show you where this accident happened. I was setting up a new colony, and I wasn't even working in right with the bees themselves. I was probably about 20-30 feet away. And at the time, I had all of my hives on this top ridge here. I'll turn the camera out and show you a sec once I get my footing. So you can see my couple of hives just almost completely buried in snow. I did come out this morning and stamp the snow down around in front of them. So I was working up here probably about 20-30 feet down from these colonies. And I had probably about 12-13 colonies up here at that point. And I had them all up on the ridge. It's a really nice place. Woo! Big chunk of snow just fell down from the roof there. There's another safety thing. Jeez, you get clobbered by snow falling off your roof. So this is a great place for the bees. Was a great place for the bees because the sun hit them. It was sheltered, you know, it was at the top of the ridge, but sheltered from the forest in behind. Got the sun, you know, first thing in the morning. Great spot. Terrible for the beekeeper. Footing was never very good. And this accident, of course, was a culmination of kind of a few things. Bad response, bad flight response, a bunch of things. So I was basically right up here. This bee was just pinging me in the face to the point where I had to get out of there. I took a couple of quick steps, and by the third, where I was almost going into a jog, my foot hit some type of undergrowth, and I just went catapulting down this hill. And so I ended up, you know, right down at the bottom, so past that big old maple tree there. And all of this is thorn bush. It's rocks and thorn bush. Not a comfortable place to fall. I didn't realize how badly hurt I was. I think I was in shock. So this is where an emergency plan comes in. You need to have a contact list. 911, of course, if you may or may not be in a 911 area, but having those personal contacts, because you may not have the capacity to even deal with 911. So I self-assessed. I called my wife. I said, geez, I'm really hurt. I don't think I have to go to the hospital. I'm going to clean myself up, finish the bees. About an hour later, I started feeling very, very sick, very dizzy. The adrenaline was wearing off. I started having very, very bad pain inside my chest. It turned out that I did have a broken rib. I needed stitches. I lost a lot of skin on this arm. I needed stitches in my hand. And the worst part of it, and I didn't even realize this for a few days until a few days later, is a concussion. I had a very, very serious concussion. I wasn't back at work full-time for 12 months. I know what it means to be prepared now. So I take this stuff very seriously now. I always make sure that I have a up-to-date first aid kit. I make sure that I have contacts. Take today, for example. I had to hike in through the woods. You saw the dog and I coming in here. That was a hard as hell hike. There's not going to be an ambulance driving in here. And those guys would need snowshoes to get me out. Crazy deep snow. Don't think that it won't happen to you, because the odds are the longer you're out in the woods, the more likely something is going to happen. Maybe it already has. If it has, share your story. I'd like to know what happened if you were prepared, and if you weren't, what were the consequences of that? I'd really be interested in hearing your own experience. Hit the like button if you found something in here useful. Subscribe if you like. Happy off gridding. Happy off gridding.